Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration for PlayStation 4 that was released October 2016. This edition is also available on PC and is basically a Game of the Year version of the timed exclusive Xbox One 360 version of the game released in November of 2015. Rise of the Tomb Raider is the second entry in the newly rebooted self-titled Tomb Raider, the first of which was released in 2013 with definitive editions released on PS4 and Xbox One later in January 2014 as the definitive edition. The newest entry, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, is out September 2018. Lara Croft is back and this time headed to Siberia in search of an item in a lost city found in the diary of her late father. The game's opening and tutorial is a series of close calls up an icy mountain climb, before landing in a jungle and surrounding village and outpost where the majority of the game takes place. Rise of the Tomb Raider pretty much plays exactly like the last game. You move Lara in third person, over shoulder stealthing and killing your way through waves of troops of the Trinity organization who are also in search of the artifact. There's a lot of climbing and jumping and what I've come to call platform seeking, looking for ways to scale giant cliffs and mountains by finding the right handholds. Lara can do a little wall jump off scarred looking walls to give a little boost up to the ledge. She also has her climbing axes that can be plunged into cratery looking surfaces. Sometimes on the close calls you'll have to press the square button to maintain grip. Since this is a Game of the Year type edition, on initial loading it seemed to be rewarding me all sorts of bonus weapons and such, but they were only available when I acquired my first weapon of that type in-game. Lara's trusty bow and arrow is back, and you can eventually obtain a pistol, rifle, and shotgun, all of which can be switched between with a touch of the D-pad. Stealth remains about the same as the first game, as in I'd usually get myself in position for a quick stealth kill of the first enemy. Somehow people around would hear or see me and we'd start a full-on shootout. Now just to expand on this a bit, I will say the game tends to have a very omniscient AI that didn't always tend to coincide with an enemy's line of sight. Not sure if this is intended to make you rely more on throwing objects to distract enemies, or just provide more of a challenge, but there were two specific points in the game where Lara's inability to disappear from enemy radars was particularly frustrating. Lara does have quite a few more options this time around in combat, as you can craft bombs and molotovs now by grabbing a can or bottle in the environment, and it handily gives you a prompt to do so without even touching a menu. I'm not quite sure why we couldn't keep a few vessels in inventory, as it's possible to carry 45 arrows, 3 different guns, and dozens of servings of explosive material to make the can bomb, but holding multiple cans is out of the question. Gathering materials plays a significant part again in upgrading inventory and gear, including animal hides from hunting and springs dropped from soldiers. While a lot of your weapon upgrades apply to all weapons in the category, some are specific to a particular one. This is where it sort of got into weapon overload, having 5 options the second I got my first shotgun, and the upgrades didn't seem to make much of a visceral difference. On top of that, bolts needed for most gun upgrades were found in abundance. So much so that I was stockpiling because I couldn't decide which upgrade to make, and I hit a previously unknown max while I was in between camps, so I lost the opportunity to pick up a few. Lara gains experience points for kills and finding artifacts and completing story points, and upon leveling up will gain a point to purchase skills from 3 categories. From things like getting more ingredients from pickups to showing a reticle on an enemy's head when you're aimed at their head to tell you for sure that you're aimed at their head. Yeah. As mentioned, the camps return, and they're not just the places where you craft upgrades and select skills, but they can also be used again as fast travel points. There's a ton of them, and it's actually pretty great. One tent in particular you'll be returning to is near a vendor who exchanges goods for some of the ancient coins that can be found, and coming from the bottom of his cliff, it's a bit of a climb. So being able to jump up there instantly and really close to anywhere you want is very handy. Especially because this game is quite a collection fest. There are documents that tell historical as well as present-day pieces of the narrative. Some of these, as well as plaques found on walls, will help Lara learn Greek, Russian, and Mongolian in order to read monoliths that can be found which reveal the locations of ancient coin stashes. There are also artifacts hidden in boxes and maps and satchels that reveal the locations of all these items on the map. You can also find chests that contain 1/4 of a weapon that can be used once the set is complete. Optional challenge tombs return again with their relatively simple single puzzle, rewarding Lara with a codex, teaching special skills you can't buy from the trees. A lot of these tombs will be locked behind gear barriers like your rope arrows or something to help you swim further, and the game even politely tells you that you can't proceed further down a path without it, which is a nice courtesy. So many of the item procedural style games I find myself working for 5 to 10 minutes figuring out how to get somewhere I'm not even supposed to be yet, only to uncover an ability later that helps. Now, I know I tend to bring this up whenever I talk about Tomb Raider, so I'll keep the rant short, but my primary experience with Tomb Raider is through the first PlayStation trilogy. These games featured massive tombs filled with puzzles, and yeah, I mean, things started to go a little sideways by making crazy puzzle stages out of cities and cruise ships. But I'd really like to get back into a Tomb Raider game where we're working on huge elaborate tombs instead of these open worlds of jungles and little cities and focusing on taking down an enemy army. It may feel a little different in the next couple of years, with Naughty Dog saying the Uncharted series is over and there's this gap in the game world, and Tomb Raider could sort of fill that. But in a lot of ways, these Tomb Raider games feel like they're trying to imitate those instead of establishing their own identity. From the huge cinematic set pieces, the Indiana Jones style setup, and the non-tomb locales. These little optional tombs aren't really a substitution for that for me. Graphically, this game is gorgeous. Even the cutscenes with characters chatting are very well done. This version of Rise includes a couple DLC extra chapters, including one you can play in PSVR. It's a non-combat exploration of the Croft Manor, as Lara tries to find the will to the place to keep it in her possession. There are also what's called expedition modes, where you can replay the game's stages for points and compare them to a leaderboard. Apparently there are card packs you can unlock to change the way this mode plays, and you can acquire more cards by finishing that or paying real money for packs. I didn't really spend too much time here personally. Overall, Rise of the Tomb Raider is a solid enough sequel to the reboot. Features a lot of the same gameplay with a few more combat options, but a lot less impactful upgrade system. There are tons of collectibles, some neat looking locations, a handful of well-designed puzzles, but really could have done with some more. A middling story with tons of huge cinematic moments, a couple extra modes if you want to replay parts of the game, some frustrating at times AI and stealth mechanics, but overall just more of the same good, solid blockbuster action. As usual, this scoring part of the review is my personal opinion, as these scores are always subjective to the reviewer. There wasn't a whole lot aside from a few little features that did it better than the first game. At one point I mentioned to a friend this could be an expansion pack for Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. Rated as an open-world action-adventure title, Rise of the Tomb Raider hits a 74 out of 100 on my true scale of 0 to 100, where 50 is just average. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.